There is a moment, and you know exactly which one I mean, when you realize that no one is coming. Not a mentor, not a partner, not a god, not a better version of yourself materializing from the future to finally fix things. Just you, in whatever room you're sitting in right now, with the weight of a life that somehow became yours without you fully choosing it. That moment doesn't announce itself. It arrives quietly, usually at an hour when the rest of the world is asleep, and it sits beside you like an uninvited guest who has nowhere else to go. This is the horror they never warned you about. Not death, not failure, not heartbreak, the horror of waking up to the fact that you are free. Completely, terrifyingly, irreversibly free. And freedom, real freedom, the kind without a safety net or a script, feels nothing like liberation. It feels like falling through open air and slowly understanding that the ground was never coming. You were handed a story early on. Go here, achieve this, become that. And you followed it, or you didn't. And either way, you arrived at the same silent room, the same unresolved middle of things, wondering how people around you seem to be living lives that have a point, wondering if there's a frequency you're not tuned into, a secret meeting you weren't invited to. And the darkest version of that question, the one you don't say out loud, what if I was supposed to figure this out on my own, and I just didn't? Here's what no one will say to you plainly. There is no inherent architecture to your life, no plot, no author who intended something beautiful for you. The universe is not indifferent to your suffering in the way a cruel person might be. It's indifferent the way a winter sky is indifferent, completely, structurally, not out of malice but out of a total absence of investment. This is not a tragedy. This is the starting condition. And once you stop fighting it, once you stop bargaining with the silence, something shifts. Because here is the other side of that horror. If no one is coming, then no one has been standing in your way either. The scripts you inherited about who you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to want, which version of a life counts as real, none of them were ever binding. They were suggestions, habits of imagination handed down by people who were also lost and also afraid and also waiting for someone to arrive and tell them what to do. You took their fear and called it structure. You took their unexamined life and called it a map. The freedom you're terrified of is not empty. It only feels that way because you've been measuring it against a picture of life that was never accurate to begin with. Meaning isn't discovered the way you find a coin in an old coat. It's made the way a fire is made, deliberately with friction, in the dark, repeatedly with no guarantee it will hold. This is not inspirational. This is just the mechanics of being conscious and mortal and here. There is a particular kind of grief in this. Letting go of the story where someone arrives, a relationship, a revelation, a version of success, and restructures everything into coherence. That grief is real, and it deserves space. You spent years curating a version of yourself for an audience that was going to eventually confirm your worth. The job would do it. The relationship would do it. The accomplishment would sit on the shelf and radiate meaning back at you. And when none of it did, when you stood inside the thing you wanted and felt the same hollow undertow, the confusion was not weakness. It was honesty. You were finally meeting reality without the anesthetic. The parts of yourself you've been abandoning to maintain an acceptable surface, those are not problems to be solved before you can start living. They are the territory, the anger you've been polishing into productivity, the grief you've been outsourcing to late-night television, the desire you've been too ashamed to even name clearly to yourself. These are not symptoms of a broken life. They are the contents of an actual one. And the work, not the self-improvement work, not the optimization, but the real reckoning, is to stop treating your interior life like a waiting room for the version of you that has it together. Nobody is coming. And when that finally stops being the wound and starts being the fact, just a fact like weather, like time, you become, for the first time, genuinely dangerous to the life you've been sleepwalking through. Not dangerous in the way of recklessness or rage, but dangerous in the way of someone who no longer needs permission, who no longer needs the story to resolve cleanly, who can sit in the open dark of an ordinary night and feel, underneath the exhaustion and the uncertainty, something almost like ground. Not hope, not answers. Just the strange, quiet solidity of someone who has stopped waiting. Who has picked up the only life available, this one flawed and unfinished and entirely their own, and decided for no cosmic reason at all to mean it.